Alright, so I'll kill this. So these are the charts I'm looking at pretty much all the time these days, if you're curious. You know, or I guess everyone's saying ETH now. Whatever, I'll go with ETH. ETH US dollar, Bitcoin US dollar, Rune US dollar. We'll talk about that later. And the Ethereum Bitcoin pair, because um, it bottomed out at oh geez, 0.02 something, like, and now it's just literally been on a tear. And that's pretty telling. You know, I really do think Ethereum's going to be making major waves in the space, and um, it's going to be pretty powerful just because of the amount of brain power on Ethereum right now. That's why the fees are so high. We can talk about that later. But these are the main ones that I'm looking at these days. Let's bring this back to a day, and I'll bring you back to my normal monitor. And let's, you know, for those watching this, obviously we know we're launching an Opportunity Zone fund. We're trying to gather, or find LPs to fund our next venture in mining and cloud computing with GPUs. Dozens of use cases really coming up with cloud computing. Bitcoin and crypto is really just the base layer of that. So we want to be able to basically take the business model that we've had, scale it, and add some layers of complexity by renting out compute time to different things outside of crypto, with crypto being the base layer. So we'll always have proof of work to mine at some capacity, whether it's Ethereum Classic or Raven Coin or Vert Coin or whatever. So we have that base layer, and then we can start to layer in some interesting applications on top of that. And that's what we're really shooting for here. So if you haven't, check out this website, reach out to me, an email, and we can talk more about that. Cool. So, all right. So you want to learn more. You want to get more yield on your Ethereum. That's great. Basically, there's a couple tools that you're going to need to have in order to get involved with the space, and there's a lot of different options. I know my partner Jimmy really likes Exodus Wallet. It is a little bit more robust, I think, than the Metamask, which is what I'm going to recommend. But this is really simple, and I want to keep things as simple as possible for you know, my clients and for people just getting into the space. And I need to switch my battery out real quick, so give me 2 seconds. Hello, hello. Sorry about that. So MetaMask is just a Chrome extension. You know, hit download now. It's going to pull up this little fox-looking thing, and then you can access your Ethereum, access all the different DeFi apps. You know, like I said, it works with Exodus. It works with a couple other wallets. But MetaMask is super easy in that it's on your Chrome browser, and you can pretty much do everything that you want to do, which I'll get into some of these in a second. So highly recommend MetaMask. The first one is like actually I think they may be like the first big major protocol in DeFi, and that's Compound. And all it allows you to do is, it's basically, think of it like a credit union essentially, where you can basically lend your assets to Compound, and then other people can lend against those assets. But everything in DeFi is, we're trying to crawl before we can walk in the space. So everything in DeFi is over collateralized loans at this point, as far as I know, which means that if you want to take out $10,000 in loans, you have to put in 10,000, or actually more than that, double that, $20,000. Every protocol has a different, called liquidation percentage, where you have to have over collateralized assets in order to take money out of the system. So you basically give them $10,000 worth of Ethereum, and then you can basically mint, let's say 10,000 DAI, stablecoins, USDC, whatever that system allows you to mint, and then you can do whatever you want with that. You can send it to your Gemini account and get it sent to your bank. You can go and deploy it in another DeFi protocol like that. That's your money. You can pretty much, it's pretty liquid. And it's really interesting because so it's a way for you to use your money without losing your exposure to an asset that you want to have. And there's a lot of different other ways to do it, but that's kind of how I think about it. I think Ethereum's going up, but I need the money. I can send out this loan there, lock up my Ethereum, take out the DAI or stablecoin or whatever, and continue to have exposure to that. There's risks, obviously. If the price of Ethereum were to tank, your loan wouldn't be collateralized anymore, and they would liquidate your Ethereum, and you would just be left with what you took out from their system. So if you're looking at it from the lending perspective, that's the risk. But if you're looking at it from the supplying perspective, you have these are the APYs on Compound. Some of them are better than others. They're probably better than, and this is all supply and demand, like the market's deciding what these rates are. These rates change based on how many people are lending in the system or supplying in the system or what have you. So it looks like DAI's at 5.27%. I only have, of all these assets, I believe, actually I do have 700 DAI in here. So I can, let's look at Ether because I have some Ether too. So basically, if you want to supply the markets with 1 Ether, they'd give you okay, so you also earn an APY. You also earn Compound. So this is Compound's way of incentivizing people to use their system. I don't actually personally use Compound. It's just like the biggest one. So you're going to earn your 0.14% on your Ethereum. It's not that exciting. But you're also going to earn Compound for using their system. And that's a way to incentivize people to use their system. And they're basically minting that Compound regularly, like every hour of every day. The more people that are using their system or supplying on their system is the more Compound that's being minted, essentially. Eventually, I would imagine that incentive program is going to run out, and that's just going to be how many Compounds there are. But this is how their system works right now. So you can use it from both the supply side or demand side. Or I'm sorry, a borrow side. So I have a quick little clip here I'd like to show.
That being said, the starting point for any kind of interaction with Compound is supplying funds. Even if you want to ultimately take out a loan, you have to start by locking collateral into the protocol. So let's suppose that I have some Ether in my wallet that I want to lend.
Interest rates are a lot higher.
The first thing that I can do is simply go ahead and deposit that Ether. And let's suppose that I want to use 0.05% Ether, actually 0.005. And we're going to click supply. And it's going to tell me the interest rate I'm going to be earning. And it's going to tell me the comp token distribution APY. And right now we don't have to worry about the borrow limit or the borrow limit use. We're simply going to click supply. We are going to confirm that transaction on Metamask. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, you might have to unlock the asset. And that's simply a transaction where you unlock ETH and then you actually go through a separate transaction to actually deposit it.
So basically, this was right when Compound came out. Obviously, the Compound interest rate was out of control because I want to say that the interest rates were out of control because they are coming out with a set number of compounds every hour. I probably was mistaken before in that they're not minting more compounds. They're just taking that existing emissions rate and spreading it out more people that provide liquidity on their system. So that makes sense to me as to why his interest rate was so much higher than what we just saw. So Compound's the biggest one. I don't think they're the sexiest one, but they're the most stable. If they were to be hacked, I would have definitely imagined there would be a replenishment of the tokens lost, like we've seen in some other DeFi protocols. They're just like blue chip DeFi token, one of the longest standings in the system. So the next one is Aave, and they're pretty much a direct competitor to Compound. It's another lending system. They have a ton more assets though. So they just came out with Aave version 2, where you can do the same thing here. You can deposit your DAI or your, You can deposit your DAI, your Binance USD, your Uniswap, pretty much anything that could live on the Ethereum system they can support. There's SushiSwap, all this stuff, and you can do the same thing here. And the APYs can get a little wonkier because you're dealing with some lower market cap tokens. So, for example, it's also with supply and demand. So if there's suddenly a spike in demand in some of these lower tokens, and you're one of the few people providing liquidity, then you're going to earn a higher interest if they're willing to pay that higher interest. This is how the markets are going to work out. So if you're interested in like the lending and earning interest from a lending perspective or borrowing against your assets. I mean, those are the two big ones. There are some other ones out there, but I think these are the two most decentralized and blue chip in the space right now. So definitely recommend using Aave and Compound. And I should have said this in the beginning, but obviously none of this is financial advice. If you want to speculate on Aave and Compound, or if you want to take out loans, that's your decision to make. I'm not telling you to do any of these things or anything like that. So DeFi is still a very young space. I think it has the potential to replace a lot of existing brick and mortar banking financial products, and I think it's going to revolutionize the financial industry. But for now, we're still developing a lot of this space, and a lot of this is going to change. So these are two examples of what we call non-custodial lending protocols, where you are holding the tokens or the protocol is holding the tokens in a smart contract, but you technically hold the keys to all of these things. There is no third party. They could spin up another website, or you can interact with their website through the blockchain. There's no third party involved whatsoever. If you wanted to get exposure to lending or earning interest, there are third party solutions as well that would be a little bit less complicated and would allow you to just have safety in the fact that there is a third party bank holding the money for you, so you can't mess something up and lose your funds or something like that. One example of that is BlockFi. I personally use BlockFi for earning interest on our Ethereum, my Ethereum, and I should say my wife and my Ethereum and Bitcoin. So this is a really good place here. You can earn 8.6% on your stable coins, which is just like far and above anything that you could see in the traditional market right now. So like, why hold your funds in a bank when you've got and you can just turn it into stable coins, get the same exposure to US dollars. Instead of earning 0.5%, you can earn 8.6%. And I just got an email from BlockFi earlier today saying they're doing a promotion to make that around 10% up until I think the end of May. So BlockFi is they're a Bitcoin bank. They've got a lot of funding. Anthony Pompliano talks about them a lot. I think that his firm invested in them, and they're simplifying earning interest and basically using some of the protocols that we were just talking about, Aave and Compound, and putting it in a really simple UI and allowing you to earn yield on your crypto. I think if you were to go into DeFi with the Metamask and start to find some of these high interest rate bearing products, you could probably earn a higher yield, but it's going to require a lot more of your attention and time and know-how. I think that BlockFi does a really good job of simplifying everything. You have one Bitcoin address, it earns interest upon deposit, super clean UI, and I know that they're also coming out with a Bitcoin credit card where you'll be able to earn Bitcoin back on every purchase, and it's going to be pretty wild to have a 8%, or with Bitcoin it's a little bit less, maybe 5%, maybe we can click on products and see, 5% to 10% interest-bearing yielding account that you can also draw from on a credit card. That I think that's pretty wild, and you can keep your exposure to your Bitcoin or Ethereum. They may add other tokens in the future, or blockchains in the future. I don't know, but I couldn't recommend BlockFi enough. Direct competitor to BlockFi is Gemini. So Gemini is the Winklevi twins. They come out with their US-based exchange to compete with Coinbase way back in the day, and they, based on the tokens that they've added versus the tokens that Coinbase has added, and the just the embracing of DeFi, I actually find myself like ideologically way more aligned with the tokens that Gemini is putting on their platform versus Coinbase. I think Coinbase put XRP on there at one point, and we see a lot of Ethereum-based DeFi tokens here that I think are going to have a brighter future than some of the ones that Coinbase has supported in the past. So I've actually years ago completely abandoned Coinbase. I mean, congrats to them on their IPO. That was pretty wild news. But I really do think Gemini is going to be a much bigger player down the road, and just based on the tokens that they're supporting and the tokens that I'm finding value in, and a lot of them we're going to talk about tonight. So, for example, we have Filecoin, which is basically going to be a hard drive mining token based on Ethereum. You have Maker, which is Compound. That's what you mint when you are staking on Compound. You get Maker. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is incorrect. Maker is something else. What are you? We're gonna find out Maker Ethereum. That's another Maker DAO. Yeah, that's another one. This is another. Oh, they're the company behind DAI. So DAI is a stablecoin based on basically a smart contract that keeps the price at $1, and it's not like Tether where you don't really know what's going on in the background. It's a lot like you can see all the assets behind the smart contract, and it should be more popular than it is in my opinion. But there's turning out to be many stable coins out there. So yeah, excuse my mistake there. Maker and Compound are two different things. Maker is another huge one in the space. Maker DAO, I recommend you check them out. Check them out too if you want to look into lending. But yeah, this also lets you earn interest on your yield. So I actually think their UI is a little bit worse than BlockFi because you actually have to move your Bitcoin or your Ethereum. Josh, yeah, Coinbase bad. You actually have to move your Bitcoin or your Ethereum to a different account, and then you can earn interest on your account, and then you need to move it off of that account to earn interest. And like all those things, Gemini charges you fees. So like it's really no reason to move it in there unless you know you're going to keep it in there for a long time. But the interest rates are the same as in BlockFi, at least as far as I've seen. So if it's convenient for you, oh boy, if it's convenient for you, then I would use Gemini if you're already in their system because BlockFi makes you do all the KYC AML stuff. I think they each have their own pros and cons. But I mean, both of these systems are going to allow you to earn a percentage on your crypto as well. Now, the rage in all this space since last summer is Uniswap and decentralized exchanges. So Uniswap is doing more volume than Coinbase, valued at a fraction of what Coinbase is valued at. And anyone can add a trading pair. Anyone can spin up a token, throw up a website or whatever, and provide some liquidity on that token and create a pair, and you can start trading on it. It's really opened up. It's like the new ICO. That paints it in a bad light. It's like it certainly could be a recipe for traps. But it also gives exposure to small projects. And mind you, this is all based on the Ethereum ecosystem. This isn't new random blockchains spinning up that are being traded on this platform. Uniswap is only providing liquidity or trading pairs on the Ethereum ecosystem, and you have the Ethereum copycats like Binance Smart Chain have their own Pancake Swap, and there's a bunch of these all springing up all over the place, but Uniswap's kind of the OG. And you can interact with this with the Metamask wallet as well. So if you just click on Use Uniswap, it's going to pull up let's see here, we can go to, let's find a token, sure. So these are all the ones that they know exist, right? So you've got 1inch, which is another one of these exchanges. You can trade Aave here, DAI, Ethereum, whatever. So you can basically I want to sell my Ethereum and buy DAI, right? So let's just do like a quarter of an Ethereum, buy 600 DAI. You hit swap, confirm swap. We're gonna pay probably some fees here, but $26, sure, for the education. So they basically, because I interact with my wallet, it pings the wallet here. I hit yeah, this is me. Let's hit yes, and then it's going to say, hey, this transaction's occurring. We can actually go on Etherscan and take a look at the transaction occurring right here. And it's going to take a quarter of my Ether, turn it into DAI. There was no third party involved. There was no Coinbase involved. There was no Gemini involved. This is just Uniswap with a smart contract. You're matching, my Ethereum with someone that's selling their DAI. It's a little bit more complicated than that because we had protocols like this in the past. I don't know how many people have heard of Shapeshift, but Shapeshift was Eric Voorhees' company. I recommend that you follow him as well if you're on Twitter. Eric Voorhees got me into this when he debated with Peter Schiff back in 2013. It's a really famous debate. But he created Shapeshift, which allowed for no KYC exchanges, and the issue was that there was really no liquidity. Like you could basically say like I want to sell this at the market price, and Shapeshift had to be on the back end holding those assets to facilitate all these transactions happening in real time, and try to match it with the existing price on the market. Obviously, the government came and said, hey, that's you're basically being a financial institution at this point. You can't be doing that. And oh boy, let's see if it went through. Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, it happened here. So I don't know why Etherscan didn't like that, but we see the swap my quarter ETH for 600 USD, so that's good to go. Um, kind of lost my train of thought. So Shapeshift had a liquidity problem, and it had a centralized backend problem that governments didn't like. So Uniswap created this, and in order to provide liquidity on the systems, they allowed anyone to provide liquidity on their system and earn interest on it. There would be a half a percentage maker-taker fee, essentially, and Uniswap would get 2/10 of that, or I should say 20%, or they would get 2/10, and the liquidity providers would get 3/10. So Uniswap, the company, would get 0.2%, and then the liquidity providers would get 0.3%, and that's a way to earn interest, another way to earn interest on your yield. So we can go, if we wanted to actually provide liquidity, we can click Add Liquidity, and you can add liquidity your Ethereum versus another token. And the risk here is that you have to put up the same amount of Ethereum or the same amount of both pairs in US dollars, right? So if you wanted to do Ethereum and let's just do Ethereum and let's do DAI. So I'd have to put in, if I did the max, it's going to be like, yo, you don't have enough DAI. If I want to do the max here, it's like, yeah, you have enough here. And I can be providing liquidity on the Ethereum DAI pair. I would make up less than 1/10 of a percentage of the share on the pool. So if someone went on their exchange and did an exchange and there was $1 worth of fees, the liquidity providers would get 3/5 of that, and then I would get 0.01% of that 3/5 of that 0.5%, right? So the more liquidity that you provide, the larger percentage of the pie that you're going to take as a liquidity provider, and that's why some of these protocols are starting to garner like massive amounts of value. So there's a couple of websites here I'm just going to throw in here, like DeFi Prime, I believe is going to show you. I don't want DeFi rate. That should show us TVL. Oh, this is another way of showing us interest rates here. So you can go to DeFi Prime and DeFi Rate. They're going to give you different protocols and things that are earning high percentage. Like on your DAI, you can earn 10% here. And I think these are the kinds of things that Gemini and BlockFi are using to find high yield returns. They're definitely getting higher than 8.6%, because they're moving your funds around and finding better ways to deploy that capital. So you got to keep in mind they're a centralized bank. When you send money to Gemini or BlockFi, they're immediately, if you look at the blockchain, they're immediately moving it off to like wherever they have their funds that they're earning their own yield on, and then they're just ensuring that and saying like, hey, if we lose it, we're a bank, we're good on that. So that's a risk that you take. Is that, or will they honor that? But if you're going to be going in yourself and earning higher yields, you're interacting with all these contracts, and you're assuming all these contracts are ironclad and what have you. So there's those risks associated with in getting involved in that. Oh my gosh, wish I knew the website that gave you the TVL. Let's do DeFi TVL. I'll just Google it, see what we get here. DeFi Pulse, that's what I want. Yeah. So this is the total value locked in USD and DeFi. We're up to the 60. It hits over 60 billion at one point, and these are just how much money is locked up, either creating Maker, creating Compound, and earning interest here. A lot of these are in the lending protocols, and then Uniswap's number 4. Spike, are current tax implications of this kind of swap any different from buying and selling on an exchange? I think it's completely unclear what the regulations are going to say. I would think that it would be something like earning interest on if you had interest in a bank. But if you're moving from protocol to protocol in search of higher yields, technically every single time that you're moving would be a taxable event. But I haven't, because this is so new, I haven't really nailed down the best process for this. And there may be one, but this is so new that I don't have any advice from a tax perspective. I could absolutely put you in touch with my accountant. He does all the tax work for our business, and that's something that we're working through right now. So if you have tax questions, I'll absolutely put you in touch with him. His name's Justin. We can talk about that offline. All right, so let's get off that. So Uniswap, I just showed you how this worked. I'm not actually going to be providing liquidity here, so I don't want to actually click on that. Hold on 1 second. Alrighty. Cool. So that's Uniswap. Uniswap was VC funded, so they're going to get their 0.2% for providing or for creating the protocol in perpetuity on their platform. And they also came out with a Uni token, like an airdrop, so that they could somehow involve that in their system when either voting or you can earn interest on Uni. I don't think that that's happened yet, but there is a Uni token that is reflective of the value of the business itself. I don't know. I don't think it's a security though. It's just a different. It's like they had their own ICO and they airdropped all their users some Uni. But SushiSwap was launched as a result of Uniswap's success. If you posting these smart contracts to the blockchain, they're open source, and SushiSwap was a community-driven protocol response. Hello, Odysseus Max. They were a Uniswap response in that they wanted not the VCs to be getting a portion of the fees, but the sushi holders to get a portion of the fees. So you would be earning the 0.3% for providing liquidity, and then the holders of sushi would earn the other 0.2%, and this would be a community-owned protocol. So they're essentially the same thing. I will say that I think Uniswap's kind of running away with it at this point. I think just having that much just backing from a monetary perspective from VCs allows them, and the knowledge, the know-how, the experience that comes with that field of expertise. I think they're just kind of running away with this. Sushi is still obviously doing a ton of volume right now, but Uniswap is the king of the dexes at this point. Now we may have some Binance Smart Chain people come in here and say, like, what about PancakeSwap? It's like, I'm not really interested or care about an Ethereum copycat that uses 12 validators to run the whole blockchain. That's not a decentralized protocol, in my opinion. And I think that once Ethereum figures out their fee issues, which I think will happen in July, and I can talk about that later, I think a lot of these other blockchains are just going to kind of fade away. Because there's really no reason to be using those chains if the fee issues are fixed. So with that, we can do, let's see here. Am I providing liquidity on here? I think I'm staking my own Sushi. Sushi's also been updating their UI constantly, and this looks very different from even when I was on this just a few days ago. Okay, so we got analytics here. We can look at the pairs. Will it have my pair? What am I even providing liquidity for on here? I do not recall. No, so this is all pool-wide or site-wide stuff. Portfolio. This is, yeah. Sushi's just updated their UI again, and this is, I think, exactly what I mean. Uniswap's going to be a lot more smooth. Sushi's just keeps going through iteration and iteration. There we go. So, like I said, this is a brand new space in general. I think it's a really easy to use Sushi from a user perspective. Let's actually get out of analytics completely. It's almost the exact same UI if you're just going to swap. Oh, Oh, interesting. Okay, so they allow you to move your liquidity from Uniswap to SushiSwap with just a button. But this is all changed. If you want to play around in here, feel free. I recommend Uniswap is kind of the king of the dexes, and I think that you should start there. If you wanted to, Sushi's also kind of providing some of those other really small market cap coins that maybe you won't find on Uniswap, but I mean anyone can add a token, so I don't really think that there's a particular advantage that SushiSwap has. So I'll just move on. Maybe if there's interest, I can go into that later. There are a lot of dexes showing up. Actually, if I go back to DeFi, was it DeFi Prime? We can see, I wonder what the other, no, it wasn't DeFi Prime, DeFi Pulse. We can see what all of the, what's another dex that we can look at? SushiSwap, Curve. So we'll talk about Curve in a little bit. Centralized liquidity pool, stable coin. Okay, yeah. So the Curve is what we'll talk about next. So Xerion Finance, Andre Cronje, I know I'm saying his name wrong. Andre Cronje is a DeFi developer, and he created iEarn, rebranded to Xerion Finance. And what they're basically they're called a yield aggregator. And what you do is you deploy your capital into their system, like here, for example, and they're going to find the highest yielding asset or the highest yielding pool or the highest yielding lending protocol that they can find and just keep searching. They're kind of like a crypto hedge fund in a way. So you can say like, hey, if I deposit and a Curve is their pool. So you're earning an additional interest by using their decentralized exchange and also earning lending percentages on top of that. So they're aggregating all these different types of yield farming, and they're doing it all within their ecosystem. So these are some pretty high interest rates, and this is, I think, what a lot of people would come to expect. But with these high interest rates, there's a little bit more risk. And I've got a quick video about Xerion here.
Finance does one thing really well. It automates yield earning. It started out as a yield bouncer called Finance, which automatically moved stablecoins like DAI from one lending protocol to the next across Compound, DidX, Ava, and more to maximize lending yield and to ensure that you didn't have to. Then Andre, the man, innovated the idea of bringing this yield bouncing strategy into a stablecoin pool in Curve. Now anyone can deposit into the Curve Y pool, and their idle stablecoins will be lent across pools to earn lending interest while accruing trading fees as an LP when trade is swapped between stablecoins in the Curve Y pool. And this is one of the earliest examples of yield farming, earning multiple forms of yield thanks to stacked incentives connecting multiple DeFi applications in what's known as money Legos. But then in the summer of 2020, Andre unveiled a new and rebranded Finance to the world. He said he would decentralize control of Finance by distributing 30,000 Wi-Fi tokens, which he said had no value, even though the market thought very differently. Finance would continue on this mission of automating yield earning with a concept he called vaults, to make it as simple as depositing tokens to earn yield using a series of sophisticated strategies engineered by Andre and future Finance developers. The 30,000 Wi-Fi tokens will be distributed over 7 or maybe 10 days of yield farming, where one could stake their Curve Y Pool LP token to earn more Wi-Fi. Additional pools required staking, providing liquidity in Balancer, and staking the LP token to bootstrap liquidity for this newly minted Wi-Fi token. Now, Wi-Fi, which is Finance's governance token, was ultimately distributed only to users who provided liquidity, with no pre-mine, no pre-sale, and no allocation to the team. Wi-Fi set the standard for launching the most decentralized token, the so-called fair launch. Although most of the ecosystem was built by Andre Cronje himself, control of Wi-Fi was transferred to a multi-sig wallet, which requires 6...
All right, I'll leave it there. So basically, Andre created this protocol, and he created Wi-Fi, and now the owners of Wi-Fi can vote on what they want to implement into their system. So if you have, there's only 30,000 of them, which is why they're trading at $50,000 each. But if you own that, you get one of 30,000 votes, and you can vote on the various protocols on Ethereum.finance. So we can go to the vaults. I think that's what I just clicked on, and then we can also go to governance here, and you can vote based on your YFI on whatever they want, whatever these proposals are. So they're a hedge fund. If you own YFI, you can vote and see what they actually build and where they deploy their tokens. If you're just a liquidity provider for their platform, and they're going to be chasing those yields based on those proposals to find you the best return on your assets. I really think it's a cool system. It's very transparent. Crypto hedge fund essentially that's decentralized. Really cool. I think they're worth checking out. So those are kind of the big ones that I would lead with if someone came up to me and said, "Oh, what's this DeFi thing?" But there's obviously a lot more than you can do with your crypto capital. And as most people know, Ethereum 2 is launching. They say end of this year. I think it's going to be next year. But if you have your 32 Ethereum, you can become a staker, and you're going to earn interest on those Ethereum. Right now, it's the current APR is 7.8%. That's going to move down the more people stake. However, once Ethereum kicks off miners and the stakers start to earn some of the mining revenue that miners currently receive, then that APR is going to go up. So it's important to distinguish that EIP 1559 is going to eliminate the miner base fee, but there will still be miner tips. There will still be, and there are protocols like Aave, like all the ones we talked about, that are going to pay high tips in order to make sure that their transactions are included in every block, because they have a massive amount of transactions occurring in every block. So you still will have miners getting rewards for transactions. You'll still see transaction fees. It just won't be at the extent that it is now. And then when proof of work is completely obsolete on Ethereum, those miner tips will go to the stakers, and that APR is going to go up. I don't know how much, because there's going to be more stakers then, and then when that APR goes up, it's going to incentivize more people to get in and start staking. So it's hard to say what that percentage is going to be. And right now, if you stake, you cannot unstake until later in Ethereum 2.0's life. They said a year. It could be longer. I don't know. But those are the risks associated if you didn't want to get involved with all the DeFi products that are out there with providing liquidity, staking, lending, etc. Lending and all that. Then you can get involved in the staking game, which is a more base protocol of Ethereum. If you don't have 32 Ethereum, you have Rocket Pool. Rocket Pool it's basically a pool for people to send their Ethereum and get to 32 Ethereum to create a node, and then they would give you the rewards in proportion to how many Ethereum that you provided. And it's just a way for people who don't have 32 Ethereum, because it's actually getting to be quite expensive to own 32 Ethereum, to get on the staking game. So highly recommend you check that out. One thing I didn't talk about that I really do want to talk about, that I think people need to understand about decentralized exchanges, is the concept of impermanent loss. Impermanent loss is basically where your trade, you have 50% of Bitcoin, or 50% of Ethereum and 50% of Uniswap on an exchange, and the price of Uniswap goes way up, right? But you have to have 50% of each asset in each category. So what it does is it starts to sell the Uniswap on the way up to make sure that it's at 50-50, measured in USD terms. And that's the concept of impermanent loss. You may be earning transaction fees, but if the price gets super lopsided from one asset to the other, you're going to sell that asset and lose out on some of those potential gains that you would have had by just riding that asset without providing liquidity. So it's better to be providing liquidity on a pair that you don't think is going to be moving crazy amounts in price. But those are also generally the ones that have a lot of liquidity already. So that's just something to take into account. Impermanent loss is something that's being worked on currently, but right now it's a risk in the system. And that just made make sure that I throw that disclaimer out there. If you're providing liquidity on a DEX, you will see your values. If you provide 50% of Ethereum, 50% Uniswap, and the prices change, you may have, if you put one Ethereum in, you may end up with 0.8 Ethereum or 0.1 or 1.2 Ethereum and less of the other side. So those balances will shift on you. In addition to that, it's if you're putting all of your tokens all over the place, if you're parking your money in Uniswap and SushiSwap and you're like, how do you track how they're performing, where they all are? Like without writing everything down, you're just gonna not know. So I have two solutions for you. One is Xerion. Xerion is it's just an app that will talk to MetaMask and say, oh, okay, well, I'll pull up every token that you have in here, and we'll come up with a USD value of that of everything on there. I really like it. You can actually do a lot of things from here. You can interact with other tokens, so you can buy tokens right from here, right from this dashboard. But this is just interacting with your wallet. But you can do almost everything from here. If you don't like this UI, you also have Zapperfy, where it's the same thing. Oh, there we go. And you can do the same thing here. You can exchange things. It's probably using Uniswap. You can pool some of your assets here. Here are some examples. Here's Uniswap, SushiSwap, etc. Farm. This is the compounding yield farming that Yearn provides. That's the curve pool. And with farm also, like you could earn. Sometimes protocols provide incentives for you to get involved in their system. So like SushiSwap, for example, is providing sushi on certain pairs to get more people to go into those pairs, and that's why you see some crazy APYs in some instances, because the protocol or that, just like Compound, for example, is going to try to give you more value because they're trying to blow up. They're trying to put as much money as they can into the system or get as much liquidity as possible. So this is an example of them trying to aggregate all these different sources that could be coming from one position, and that's what Yearn does. So this is a cool way to look at that. And then you can also look at your transaction history and all that here. So that kind of does it for all things Ethereum DeFi. That's a good starting point. We have lending protocols, we have decentralized exchanges, we have yield aggregators. It's a way to get your money out in the system and earn your return. And I know that especially our clients that were with us from day one, like you've got money to go earn some yield on in the crypto space. So with that, if you guys have any questions, I know there's a couple here, and then I know that some people were interested in the video, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Jimmy, are you here? Are you Odysseus? Am I losing my voice right now? All right, if there's no questions, I got one more thing for you. All right, I knew it was you, Jimmy. I got one more thing for you guys. I've been following this project for a while. A lot of Ethereum exists in, a lot of DeFi exists in Ethereum. Ethereum is the protocol that I just think everything got attracted to. The EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, allows for a lot of these different things to exist and to gain traction. But Jimmy and I think that the future is multi-chain. We're going to have your Bitcoins, you're going to have your Ethereums, you're going to have your Raven coins, you're going to have a lot of different things out there. I think as long as they're decentralized, they have they have space to exist within this industry. So with that being said, I think Ethereum is going to be the playground for DeFi, and I think we're going to build out a lot of use cases, and it's already been happening here. But the future is multi-chain, and I think you're going to see DeFi on other chains as well. And one of the protocols that's allowing for this to happen is Thorchain. Thorchain just partnered with Eric Voorhees' company Shapeshift to basically do what Shapeshift could not, and that is to be providing liquidity across change without wrapping things, which is what you're seeing a lot of in Ethereum. You have to wrap your Bitcoin and lock it up in order to get Bitcoin on the Ethereum network in order to earn yield on it. But with Thorchain, you can trade your native Bitcoin with your native Ethereum, and you can do it, just have them talk to each other. And the best part about this is you can also provide liquidity on this platform as well. So if you have Bitcoin, you can park it on the Rune system. They have a wallet that has 5 different chains on it right now. You can send your money to that, and then you can earn interest on the Bitcoin, on the Ethereum. I think it's Litecoin, BCH, And I'm not sure. Let's look at see what the last one is. So this looks and operates a lot like Uniswap, where you can swap right here. Let's see. So now they're also adding ERC20 tokens, which is the standard for an Ethereum token on their network. So you've got your Binance chain here, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, BCH. So you can just hit swap, and you can send. Let's do Bitcoin, native Bitcoin, and let's get Ethereum out, and you can send your Bitcoin. I don't have 1,000 Bitcoin, but you can send your Bitcoin and you'll get Ethereum back. And this is without a third party, without a Gemini, without a Coinbase, without KYC. And this is really, in my opinion, going to break the floodgates open and allow for DeFi to exist across all chains. And I think Thorchain is going to be one of the main players in allowing this to happen. So they have their own, since this is outside of the Ethereum system, this isn't going to work with Metamask, this isn't going to work with anything that I've told you about, but they're going to have their own systems. And the way their Zapperfy or their Xerion is going to be runeyield.info. You put in your Thorchain address and it's going to track how you're performing on that. But you can see here, if we go to, and they also have a desktop app that I have right here. So right now it's only 5 chains. We hit refresh. They're not going to give me the interest rates here, but I think they are right here. So right now, if you have Bitcoin, you can earn 76% APY because there's that many more people trading for Bitcoin, and those people are earning the fees, and there's very few people on Thorchain actually providing liquidity. They're in the very, very early stages right now, so I would say that they have to raise their cap. They're doing a guarded launch, and they have to raise their cap in order to provide a little more liquidity in the system. But then they're also going to have their own incentive program and give you more Rune, which is the token on their blockchain for their blockchain. It's its own blockchain, and once those incentives kick on, and I think this allows for DeFi to exist pretty much on every chain, and they start adding dozens in chains, I think this is just going to be a massive, massive system. So I highly recommend you guys take the time to check that out. And with that, if there's no other questions, I'll upload this video. I'll put it in the Telegram. And if you guys are interested in this kind of content, I can always do this again. So thanks for your time, everyone.